You're going to the beautiful island of St. Lucia, majestic island. You're all planning. You're excited about this trip. You're looking forward to it. You're so excited, you get to the airport, you're on the plane, and you even pass out because you're just so tired. As you arrive at your destination, you realize it's colder than you'd expect. All of a sudden, you deplete and realize you did not end up where you were expecting to be. Something like this. In your discombobulation, you decide not to play the most common game or the first game known to man, which is the blame game. You know that game where a man blamed a woman blamed a serpent, and the serpent didn't have a leg to stand on, according to Zig Ziglar. This vacation, if you will, is costly. How costly? $1.5 trillion. Yes, $1 trillion vacation. You see, this $1 trillion vacation is happening even today. Students are graduating. They're being sold on a concept of go to college. It's going to be the best 4 years of your life. In some cases, 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, 8 years. But they're told that this is going to be the best thing for you. And they graduate unprepared and unequipped for what lies ahead. So $1.5 trillion, that is the amount of student loan debt we have in this economy today. So what do we do? What are the effects of this student debt crisis, of this $1 trillion vacation? Have you ever been chased by a dog? I have. I was chased by a dog named Fire. And as Fire chased me, I did my best Usain Bolt impersonation. However, I didn't get very far. And Fire caught me, and he left a hole in my pants. For most students today, who graduate with a tremendous amount of debt, they find themselves being chased by this avalanche of debt. Now, while most of them won't have any holes in their pants, they're likely to have holes in their pockets because they're settling for underemployment, the first job they can find just to try to make these payments. Another effect of this student debt crisis, or $1 trillion vacation, as I call it, is that we're seeing renters, the percentage of renters, at an all-time high. What this means is people are putting off home ownership because they're carrying so much student debt. They're putting off what happens to be one of the strongest vehicles for increasing their net worth because of this debt that they're working with right now. Another reason for, or effect rather, of the situation is that families are holding off having children. They're saying, let's wait a few more years before having a family because we have all this debt. Could you imagine the effect of this? Imagine the next Einstein isn't being born because the parents feel like they can't afford to have a child. Imagine the next Steve Jobs, the next Mark Zuckerberg, the next Jeff Bezos, unable to come into this earth and benefit the next generation because his parents or her parents can't do it. Now, when it comes to Jeff Bezos, hopefully the next Jeff Bezos will actually pay his taxes. That would be pretty good. So, I will try to read your minds. I know what you're thinking, I think. Why is a young man with an accent talking about a student debt crisis or $1 trillion vacation? You see, I was in paradise. This island, St. Lucia, I mentioned, that was my home. So I had a personal encounter, an unplanned one, with this student debt crisis. This was my home. And I divorced paradise in pursuit of the American dream, but found myself married to the American debt. Thankfully, the union was only as long as a typical Kardashian marriage. So I left home. I decided to go to Grambling State University, which, according to Miss Beyonce Carter, is the best college in the world. I went to Grambling State University in pursuit of a math degree, and I was initially offered a full scholarship. What I did not know, however, is the fact that the scholarship criteria changed. So I found myself having to get debt, even though I didn't want to. I was crushed. But in that crushing process, I said to myself, I will find a way. I will seek every opportunity possible. I will seek internships. I will seek scholarships. I will seek everything I can do to avoid going into serious debt. Unfortunately, I still have to get some debt, so I had to get a student loan, but I was driven. I call it my moment, when I decided I'm going for it. By the end of my freshman year, I found myself having multiple jobs for the summer and jobs upon jobs throughout my entire undergraduate and even graduate tenure. It got so interesting, I was actually passing off jobs to others because I didn't have time or the resources to do it myself. I also realized something, which I call my aha moment. I realized I had a unique skill set. I learned how to find opportunities. Now, me being a foreigner, opportunities for scholarships and internships were a lot less than for most of the nationals. So what I decided to do was to use what I found and share it with others so that they could also benefit from what I've discovered. We've all been dead lemons. And for me, that was one of the biggest set of lemons I'd ever received in my life. And we all know what they say, or what you should do when life gives you lemons. I think we all know it. So, while it's not inaccurate, I do believe it's incomplete. You see, what you do with life's lemons could be a passport, taking you from ordinary to extraordinary, from tragedy to triumph, from being a victim to being the victor. What you do with lemons. So what should we do with life's lemons? What should we do with life's lemons? You see, when life gives you lemons, don't just make lemonade. That's what average people do. When life gives you lemons, make a lemonade stand. You see, if you make a lemonade, only your family and those close to you are going to benefit. When you make a lemonade stand, people you would have never otherwise met get to benefit from the fruit of your labor. They get to benefit from what you've been through and what you've put together. When you make a lemonade stand, people will seek you out. They'll find you because of what value you bring to their lives and to the world. In my personal life, I had to make a lemonade stand. And I call it the Academic Consulting Agency. It's an organization that helps students find the right fit by providing them with superior academic tutoring and college preparatory services. Through this organization, my lemonade stand, I've had the honor of serving my gift to society and helping people to great things. I will introduce you to a few people that I interacted with and what I think of as part of the lemonade stand process. One is Martez Carter. You see, Mr. Carter was a walk-on football player, only 5'8", and he said to me, "Mr. Kazim, I can't do math." And I was a tutor for the football team at that time. And I said, "You're an outstanding player on the field at 5'8", but you can't do mathematics." And I invested in Mr. Carter. I poured into him. We had regular sessions, multiple nights per week. And let me tell you, had he not passed that class, that would have been it for football. As Martez became consistent in our sessions, about maybe 2 weeks later, he said to me, "Mr. Kazim, I was doing this on the board." I went, "Wait, you were doing a math problem where? On the board?" And from that point, it was an uphill climb. So within 3 months, end of semester, Mr. Carter would have been in his class. 2 years later, he would be a multiple HBCU national champion for Grambling State University. And today, Mr. Carter is a professional football player with the New Orleans Saints. I would also like to introduce you to Sed. Sed was a neighbor of mine, an ex-convict actually. And when I met him, he told me, "I want to go to school for truck driving." I told him I had experience at the school he was considering, and we built a friendship. I kept investing in Sed, keeping him accountable. By May, June of the following year, Sed would enroll at Lincoln Land Community College. 2 months later, he would get his truck driver's license. A couple of days after that, he would have his first job. Months later, Sed would become a master trainer at his company. Now he's fighting for ownership, trying to own his own truck. I will introduce one more person. His name is Tayo. When I met Tayo, I was told he's very smart, but his grades didn't quite agree. So, smart guy, the grades just didn't reflect that. He wants to be a doctor. I worked with Tayo and I convinced my boss at the time to let me take him to an event where they spoke about what's required to get into medical school. After the event, we had a man-to-man conversation, heart-to-heart. From that day, he would come to my office every single day just to touch base, let me know what is working on, and for me to give my inputs and feedback. Less than a semester later, his GPA started to climb. By the time he graduated from community college, Tayo was on billboards around the city of Springfield, on magazine covers from Lincoln Land Community College, and also one of their commencement speakers. So I share this to encourage you to build your lemonade stand. But the question comes in, how do I connect the dots? To connect the dots, you need to consider your passion. You need to consider your skills. You need to also consider the market of what's required, what's needed. One question that helped me really identify with my calling was a question that you all have heard. It goes like this: tell me about yourself. I can recall being on the campus of Lincoln Land Community College with a program called the Open Door Program. I was just visiting that day, and the facilitator asked that question around the table. And as it came to me, I'm thinking I could say so many different things. I could talk about my purpose, my problem-solving capabilities, my professional aspirations. And as I just waited and my turn came, it just came out. I am Kazim, and I'm the Warren Buffett of people. You see, Warren Buffett invests in businesses, I invest in people. I help people go from ordinary to extraordinary, go from tragedy to triumph, go from being an underachiever to an overcomer. In order to effectively build a lemonade stand, you have to notice there's a difference between a problem and an opportunity. And most times that difference is just what we call it. I encourage everyone, consider what you have. Consider your talents. Consider your lemons. Consider what's in your reach. And use that whatever way you think is possible. Get advice, but use that to build a lemonade stand. It's said the wealthiest place in the world is not America. The wealthiest place in the world is not Dubai. The wealthiest place in the world is the graveyard. Most people die with their music still in them. I don't condone violence of any sort. However, I will say this: you need to rob the grave. Do not go to your grave with your music still in you. Build a lemonade stand, and you would be amazed how long your customers have been waiting for what you bring into the world. You would be amazed how you could solve a problem that's been hammering society for decades. This is the time for you to start. Build your lemonade stand. Leave a legacy of lemons. Thank you.